The best way for me to describe what it was like for me to finally watch the 2021 The Last Duel, directed by Ridley Scott, is a slow motion head explosion. I just couldn't believe this movie as I was watching. I couldn't believe it's not an Oscar winner. I couldn't believe we're not on record of saying that Ben Affleck and Matt Damon are two of the greatest film duos of all time on the camera, in front of the camera, and back of the camera. I'm shocked that we're not universally hailing Ridley Scott as the greatest filmmaker of any generation of all time. And then I'm just shocked that, in general, The Last Duel isn't on the minds and the lips and in the hearts of fellow film critics as being one of today's best. All of these things happened. So I recently watched this movie. I think it's a masterpiece. Time to get into it.
Quiet on the set.
Camera speed.
Sound production, take one.
Action!
If we look at the filmography, just the list of Ridley Scott, he double dipped, meaning two films in one calendar year. He's double dipped so many times. You think Ridley Scott is 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 people. It's amazing when we look at his productivity. I believe the way a lot of the film critic world throughout time and history on planet Earth, they look at a lot of his films very critically. It really is. If it's not perfect, it's just not good, and it's gone. Legend with Tom Cruise is still one of the all-time great fantasy anything of all time. I don't care what you say. Sure, Blade Runner, Alien, Black Rain, Matchstick Men, Black Hawk Down, maybe the greatest war movie of all time. Certainly one of my favorites of all time. Of course, we have Gladiator, last year, Napoleon. If you watch the 4-hour version, the full version of Napoleon, it's head spinning. That's not an Oscar front runner. Kingdom of Heaven, which is somewhat of a brother sister. It's adjacent to this movie, just as a piece of art. And then we get Matt Damon, Ben Affleck. A little bit of an Oscar run with Air. It's a shoe movie. We loved it. We talked about it here. But I don't talk about this. If you want to see a true follow-up to Good Will Hunting, where you're like, man, like both of these guys, they went amongst their ways and they've done so much. And then later, they're going to come back together to work on their almost like legacy. They're on a legacy run right now. No one would put Last Duel. They would just go Good Will Hunting and Air. But if there ever was a follow-up to Good Will Hunting, this is that movie. This movie gets you right where it counts. The ending is you're not going to not think about the ending. The movie split into 2 chapters. It's basically he said and then she said. This movie, while it was coming out, and I think it was accurate. It was accurately labeled a social justice warrior, Me Too movement movie. And maybe that was intentional, but it doesn't matter because the story is just so good. I think knowing this movie came out around the Me Too era, or kind of in the guts of it, right in the middle of the Me Too era, It adds a lot of credibility to this film. It really does. Movie was made for $100 million. This movie, The Last Duel, looks like it's made for $300 million. It's in France. There's no sunshine. And the bleakness eventually gets to you as you're watching this movie. It's very subliminal. It's subconscious. It affects the viewer. This movie's bloody, dirty. Matt Damon is an absolute mercenary warlord. He becomes a knight, and we learn his fate with the title card. Spoiler: Adam Driver's the one that loses the duel in a very horrific way. That sticks with you. The girl that claims she was, forced upon, we'll say. She's incredible. And what the heck is... I am so sorry. Jodie Comer. Jodie Comer. Comier. She's incredible. Music. Harry Gregson Williams. Impeccable. Cinematography. Derez Wolski painted this like a painter. If there ever was a movie at one time where I singled it out, it's this one. This movie, probably the best movie of 2021. Should have got the Oscar. Should have got so much more. This movie solidifies, in my view, Ridley Scott. I would say at one point, it's a two-headed dragon. Which, there's a side of me that still leans that way. But it's Woody Allen, Ridley Scott. One's film, one's movies. But Ridley Scott is a filmmaker. He is a movie maker. He's both of them. Both of those heads. It's solidified at this point. The filmography, it's hard to even get into his filmography. I would say his recent movies, the ones I haven't seen or given much time to, is the 2010 Robin Hood, 2017 All the Money in the World, which I am dying to see. I really do want to see that. 2014 Exodus, Gods and Kings. Earlier this year, for the 31 Days of Dread, we did his 2001 Hannibal, where he also dropped Black Hawk Down in that same year. This dude is there, so AKAPAD. This is a Me Too movie that's properly labeled Me Too, and because of it, this movie has impact. Go check it out. You cannot deny The Last Duel. I refuse to, and I require the same from you.
Okay, that's a wrap.